I want to share a story with you that completely turned my life upside down. It's about love, trust, betrayal, and the gut-wrenching moment when everything you believed about someone you planned to spend the rest of your life with comes crashing down. This is the story of how I overheard something that changed everything about my upcoming wedding, and why it ended before it even began. For 3 years, I was certain I'd found my forever person. We had been together through so much, and 6 months ago, I proposed. It felt like the natural next step in a relationship that was built on love, laughter, and shared dreams. We dove headfirst into planning what I thought would be the perfect wedding. The venue was booked, invitations sent, everything seemed set. I was genuinely excited, counting down the days until I could finally call her my wife. But then, last Thursday happened. She had gone dress shopping with her maid of honor at this beautiful, upscale bridal boutique downtown. I was supposed to pick her up afterwards so we could head to dinner and finalize some honeymoon details. I got there about 20 minutes early and decided to wait in the car because I didn't want to interrupt what I knew was a special moment for her. That's when the sales assistant approached my car. She was maybe in her 50s, with kind eyes but a very nervous demeanor. She asked if I was the groom, and when I said yes, she hesitated, then said she needed to talk to me privately. Something about her expression made my heart skip. I nodded, bracing myself for whatever she had to say. She explained that she had been helping brides for over 15 years but had never felt compelled to intervene until now. While my fiancée was trying on dresses, she had overheard a conversation between her and the maid of honor that made her deeply uncomfortable. Apparently, my fiancée had laughed while looking at herself in the mirror and told her friend that she already had the divorce lawyer picked out for after the honeymoon. She went on to say that she planned to take me for everything I was worth, specifically mentioning my family's construction business and the house I inherited from my grandmother. She had joked about how easy it would be, knowing I was such a trusting person. The sales assistant was visibly shaken, apologizing over and over, saying she couldn't just stand by and watch a nice guy get taken advantage of. I felt like the wind was knocked out of me. That moment, sitting there in my car, hearing that, everything I thought I knew about my relationship shattered. When my fiancée finally came out of the store, she was radiant and excited, chatting about the dress and our wedding plans. I studied her face closely, searching for any hint of deception. She seemed genuinely happy, and that made the sales assistant's words even more painful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation we'd ever had, about money, about the future, about marriage. Suddenly, red flags I had previously brushed aside started flashing in my mind. Her unusually intense interest in the details of my inheritance. The way she pushed for a lavish wedding, even when I suggested something smaller and simpler. Her insistence that we combine our finances immediately after marriage. All those moments suddenly didn't feel normal anymore. I realized I had to find out the truth. I began casually bringing up prenups in conversations with mutual friends, pretending I was just curious about their opinions. The reaction from her maid of honor was telling. She became uncomfortable and quickly changed the subject, which struck me as odd, since she usually had strong opinions about everything. Feeling a mix of disbelief and desperation, I took a step I never imagined I would. I hired a private investigator. It felt ridiculous, like something out of a movie, but I needed to know if this was all a nightmare or real. Within a week, everything came crashing down. The investigator uncovered phone records showing that my fiancée had been in contact with a divorce lawyer for the past 2 months, right in the middle of our wedding planning. The lawyer's receptionist confirmed that she had scheduled consultations about asset division and marriage protections. Even worse, the investigator discovered she had been researching my family's business finances and had been to the county recorder's office pulling information on the property I owned. She had printed multiple copies of documents related to my assets. It was clear this wasn't just casual curiosity. It was a deliberate, calculated effort to prepare for something sinister. Then came the social media evidence. The investigator found a private Instagram account she kept secret from me. On this account, she posted pictures of her engagement ring with captions about securing her future. There were photos of our wedding venue with comments about making the investment worthwhile. And the most damning evidence was a private message thread with a college friend, where she explicitly discussed plans to divorce me after a year or two in order to claim half of everything. she wrote that she had specifically targeted me because of my family's money and my trusting nature. I spent that weekend feeling like my entire relationship was a lie. Every sweet moment, every promise, every I love you felt poisoned by the knowledge of her true intentions. On Monday, I made the hardest call of my life. I canceled the wedding. I reached out to every vendor and began the painful process of undoing months of planning. Some were understanding, others less so, but no amount of sympathy could lessen the blow of what I was about to do. Later that day, I asked my fiancée to meet me at a coffee shop near her work. When she arrived, confused by the seriousness in my voice, I laid it all out. I told her what the sales assistant had overheard and what my investigation had uncovered. Her reaction confirmed everything. Instead of shock or denial, she became defensive and angry. She accused me of violating her privacy by hiring a private investigator and said I was overreacting to what she insisted was just a joke between friends. When I pressed her about the lawyer consultations and the documents she had obtained, she finally dropped the act. She told me I was stupid if I thought she would marry someone without protecting her own interests. She said every smart woman had backup plans, and I was naive to expect otherwise. When I pointed out that her backup plan involved deliberately deceiving and financially destroying me, she shrugged and said, "That's just how the world works." The conversation ended with her storming out, telling me I'd regret this decision and that no one would ever love me like she did. I was left alone, feeling hollow, but somehow more clear-headed than I had been in weeks. That evening, her parents called. They were furious about the canceled wedding and demanded their deposits back. I explained the situation calmly and honestly. Their reaction shocked me. Instead of being horrified by their daughter's behavior, they were angry at me for invading her privacy and accused me of trying to ruin her reputation. Her father told me they had contributed nearly $15,000 toward the wedding expenses and insisted they deserved to be reimbursed. Her mother said my fiancé was just being practical and that all women think about financial security in marriage. They accused me of being dramatic and unreasonable. I refused to give them the money. I pointed out that their daughter had entered the relationship under false pretenses with the explicit intention of taking advantage of me. I told them if they wanted their money back, they should ask her to return the engagement ring I had given her, which was worth more than their deposits. Her father threatened legal action for breach of promise to marry. I calmly told him I had documentation proving their daughter's fraudulent intentions, and I was prepared to use that evidence in court. Things escalated quickly. Within 2 days, I received a formal demand letter from their family lawyer accusing me of breach of promise and claiming emotional and financial damages. My own lawyer reviewed the letter and was confident the case had no merit, especially with the evidence we had. He drafted a strong response explaining that their daughter's fraudulent intentions voided any obligation I might have had toward wedding expenses. Meanwhile, news of the canceled wedding spread through our social circles. Most friends were shocked, but reactions were mixed. Some supported me and were horrified at what had been planned. Others thought I had overreacted and should have tried to work things out. The most disappointing response came from her maid of honor, who admitted she had known about the plan but thought it was just talk and never believed my fiancé would actually go through with it. My ex-fiancée began spreading her own version of events, claiming I'd become paranoid and controlling, that I had hired investigators to spy on her, and that I was obsessed with money and prenups. Some people who didn't know the full story started to see me as the villain. Managing the social fallout while dealing with the practical and legal mess was overwhelming. 3 weeks later, the sales assistant who first warned me reached out again. She said she had been thinking about our interaction and remembered overhearing more. After my fiancé and maid of honor left the shop, they apparently continued their conversation in the parking lot. Through the open windows, she heard my fiancé discussing specific timelines, saying she wanted to wait at least 18 months before filing for divorce to maximize her settlement. She had researched divorce laws and had even chosen the wedding date strategically to optimize her legal position. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment plan. It was calculated and premeditated. My attorney said this new information strengthened our case against the family's legal threats. Around the same time, I learned my ex-fiancé was already dating someone else, someone she'd been in contact with for months before our breakup. The private investigator confirmed she had been maintaining relationships with multiple men during our engagement, There was no evidence of physical infidelity, but it was clear she was keeping her options open. Her family's legal threats intensified, accusing me of harassment and stalking. But my attorney pointed out that all information was obtained legally and that her pattern of deception justified my investigation. After 2 months, her family's lawyer advised them to drop the case, warning it would only bring bad publicity and was unlikely to succeed given the evidence. They agreed to drop their reimbursement demands in exchange for my promise not to pursue legal action against their daughter for fraud or emotional distress. The financial cost of the canceled wedding was significant. Lost deposits, cancellation fees, legal expenses, totaling around $30,000. But my attorney reminded me this was nothing compared to what I could have lost in a divorce. In that sense, it was the best money I ever spent. Socially, things were more complicated. Some friendships were permanently damaged by the situation and how people reacted. But I also found true support in friends who stood by me unconditionally. Their support was crucial in helping me heal and move on. 6 months later, I learned my ex-fiancée was engaged to the same man she had been seeing. Friends told me she was planning another elaborate wedding and making the same kinds of comments about financial security and backup plans. I feel sorry for that man, but I have no way to warn him without seeming bitter or vindictive. The sales assistant who warned me sent me a card recently. She thanked me for handling everything with dignity and said she hoped my story would help others avoid similar heartbreak. She told me she had never regretted speaking up, even though it was difficult. Looking back, there were signs all along. Her unusual focus on my inheritance, pushing for an extravagant wedding despite my preferences, the insistence on merging finances immediately after marriage. I mistook these for signs of love or excitement. Now I realize they were red flags I should have paid attention to. The biggest lesson I learned is to trust your gut. Protect yourself emotionally and financially. Marriage should be about partnership and love, not manipulation or calculated plans to take advantage. If you're watching this and have ever felt unsure about your relationship, pay attention to those uneasy feelings. Don't ignore the small warning signs. Talk to someone you trust. If you need to, investigate. Protect your heart and your future. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've experienced betrayal or difficult decisions in relationships, please share your story in the comments. Let's support each other and learn together. If you found this story helpful or insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more honest conversations like this. Take care of yourself and remember, you deserve to be with someone who truly values you.